And we're up. Hello and welcome to Molby On The Spot. This is your weekly chance, thanks to Anfield Index Pro, to hear the wit and wisdom of your friend and mine, the Liverpool legend that is Jan Molby. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Trevor. It's getting closer.
It's getting closer, man. It's getting exciting. There's so many things I want to talk to you about on this particular occasion because, you know, you were part of league winning teams and you know what it's like to be there at the final point. It feels a little bit like the last time we had a chance to talk about a league win. There was something sort of artificial about it with the whole absence of fans and just the awkwardness of it all, the distance between us and it. So it is an exciting time, but I don't want to sort of ignore the elephant in the room. And I want to start off with the big question that everybody's going to be asking you and want to hear from you on, which is, of course, the Trent situation. So we had his glorious return to action at the weekend, a return which saw him play very well in the piece that we saw him take part in and score what could be, well, what will be, it just is an essential goal on the road to this 20th title. So there's a couple of ways that we can approach this, but if we could start with the man himself and the question of whether or not he stays around. There was lots of rumors going around. No doubt you'll have heard them. I know I was getting people telling me this, that, and the other. And there was a weird one going around about a tour guide. I'm not sure if you heard this, who had been dropping something about perhaps Trent was going to stay and so on. So I wonder just if we can address that question first. Did you see his post-match comments?
Yeah, I did, yeah. Which is, you know, it's kind of the route he's gone down, isn't it? Not being prepared to speak about his contract situation. You know, he couldn't have looked any happier if he'd have tried. It generally meant an awful lot to him, scoring that goal and being part of being able to take it back to Anfield on next Sunday. For, you know, it's where we want to win it, isn't it? And that was the first thing I said in commentary. If nothing else, you know, this is his gift to Liverpool, and in terms of winning at Anfield in front of the fans, isn't it? So, the problem I have with these rumours is, Trevor, that where do all these rumours come from? I was heavily involved in the Real Madrid-Barcelona Champions League game last week, and yes, there was a significant fallout because Real Madrid were as average as they were, and it more and more looks like Carlo Ancelotti's going to leave his post. But I can't see that having anything to do with Trent's situation. Trent is not signing for Carlo Ancelotti, he's signing for Real Madrid. Carlo Ancelotti wouldn't have had anything to do with that anyway. The president there is very vocal and he signs the players. So I kind of dismiss most rumours because I don't know where they come from, Trevor. I was at Leicester on Sunday, and obviously the main topic was Virgil van Dijk re-signing, and then I just said to somebody from within the club, is there any change in Trent? He said, nah. He said, I can't see there being any change in terms of what his decision is. Although there was another reporter who said, somebody said he's changed his mind. He said, well, he won't be able to change his mind until he's made his mind up, does he? So I don't. I'm still where I've been for a long time, Trevor. And that is that Trent is joining Real Madrid.
And it was specifically the post-match interview where there was an opportunity. The Sky lad asked him several questions. They were all to do with the match. And I think Kelly Dalglish back in the studio afterwards was saying it took him a while to get there, their lad on the side of the pitch, but he finally did in the last question, which was to kind of put him on the spot and say, so are you going to have many more of these moments as a Liverpool player, or something to that effect? And he was very blunt about, I'm not going to speak on my situation. And I think people who really want Trent to be around next year might incline then towards their imagination a little bit and want to read into that and say, well, he didn't say he was going. But I'm like you. I feel that there was an opportunity there for him to give a little bit of hope or say something that's somehow positive, or look, I want to stay at this club. He didn't do it. To me, that's definitive, Jan. You know what it's like to be in that position as a footballer. You know what it's like to be in that position as a manager of footballers. There are ways that you can communicate information. You don't have to be cryptic all the time. He could have given the fans something. He didn't. To me, that just says it all. And I'm not making any judgments on the lad. I'm not one of these guys who does that. You know, you and I have spoken about players' careers are short. Is that where you come down on this? Because I think that's what's sticking in the craw of a lot of people, is they believe that he could have done better by the club. I don't know that that's his responsibility, Jan.
I think it's really, really difficult. It's really, really difficult because it started off with 3 players out of contract. Now there's only 1, isn't it? So that, I think, adds to the whole awkwardness of the situation. And obviously the third one being Trent, and there basically isn't any information in I think we could all see with with Virgil. You know, I think the first one to put his cards on the table was Mo. I want to stay here, yeah, but you got to pay me to stay. I also think when you listen to Virgil, I think everybody thought, you know, but there isn't really any clues here, and he's giving no clues that he's staying, and he can't really give any clues that he's going. So it is and also in the world that we live in today, Trevor, these players are not going to give anything away because there would have been something planned for this announcement, whatever that announcement is, isn't it? You know, so.
And don't you think as well, Matt, don't you think as well that it's one of those situations where we saw Mo and we saw Virgil saying things like, I love this club. I love these fans. I'm getting nothing. I have heard nothing. Pushing it right back to the club, saying, look, clearly, if there was an offer to me, you would know about it. I want to stay here. That was the implication. And the guy who is the local lad didn't do any of that, has done none of that. Whereas I saw Mo Salah get criticised for maybe using the media to get a bit of movement on his contract. At least it showed an interest in having a contract. This guy has done nothing of the sort. And with the best will in the world, it is quite easy to imagine Trent as a teammate to the likes of Kylian Mbappe and Jude Bellingham. It feels a little bit like over the last couple of years, I don't know, there seems to have been a little bit of shift in him. He's talking about winning Ballon d'Ors. That would be my only judgment of Trent. I think do what you want with your career, it's short. But I hope the guy doesn't, genuinely, I mean this, I hope he doesn't regret it in terms of, is it an ego-driven thing to go and want to play for Real Madrid? And then who could really criticize anyone, Jan, for having that inclination? I mean, it's like winning the lottery in a way, isn't it?
Well, I guess as a footballer, it is. It maybe doesn't have the same pull for British footballers as it does for, say, South Americans. You know, the South Americans make no secret about it. You know, they come over and they play somewhere in Europe and they go, well, one day I'd love to play for Real Madrid or Barcelona. And you know, it doesn't quite have the same pull for British players, but it does have the same pull for British players if you want to maybe enhance your own profile. There can be very little doubt that, you know, somebody like Jude Bellingham, who is now a superstar in that part of the world as well, and I'm talking about South America and whatever else it is. And so I can see Trent. I mean, in terms of, you talk about the contract situation and what Mo said and Mo didn't say. I mean, Mo cherry-picked moments, didn't he? All of a sudden he's in front of the camera and he's cherry-picking moments to let people know without, you know, going on bended knees. The best we can really come up with in terms of Trent is, and some people said that to me on Sunday, and again, it doesn't really wash with me, but somebody went, when he scored, he didn't look like somebody who was joining Real Madrid. And I'm going, you know, when he scored, he looked like somebody who just scored a very important goal for the club that he still plays for and the club that he probably loves. And that's what he looked like to me. I wasn't looking beyond that. So it's been a difficult situation to read if you were looking for clues for him staying. I think if you're looking for clues in going, I think it's a bit more straightforward. And as I said before, yeah, I was involved with the Real Madrid last week. There's not one single person in and around Real Madrid who doesn't believe that he's joining Real Madrid. They all seem to think that, it's a done deal and have been for a while.
Yeah, I think an awful lot of the narrative was after the Arsenal game. I don't think Trent is what that team needs. That was the gist of it, as if that's the driving force for that transfer. And that's a bit daft, isn't it? Because like you said, likely Don Carlo's on his bike. There will be a new setup, a new gaffer, and they'll just throw a whole lot of more money at the team, including whatever they spend on Trent. I think that rationale made no sense to me about why it was less likely. Do you see where I'm going with that?
Well, listen, now is not a bad time to join Real Madrid. They've been knocked out at the quarterfinal stage of the Champions League, which doesn't happen very often, which means they won't win it. They probably won't win La Liga because it looks like Barcelona. And now at the weekend, they're playing Barcelona in the Cup. So they might end up empty-handed. So this might be a good time to go. All of a sudden, you're joining a team who haven't won anything for 12 months, haven't played particularly well for maybe even longer than 12 months, with probably a new coach who there's every chance it might be Xabi Alonso, who might be able to make a team out of them, which then, to be fair, for Trent joining them, could be a relationship made in heaven, couldn't it? He goes there, there's a new coach, more coaching on the training ground, they get a clearer structure, and they get more from all their star players, isn't it? So I can't see why all of a sudden people go, oh, this is the wrong time and Trent is the wrong player. If somebody would have said to me, I'm joining Liverpool, yeah, and somebody goes to me, the last thing Liverpool need is Jan Molby, yeah, I'd have gone, really? I'll show you who you need. And Trent would think exactly the same. Nobody's going to be able to go to Trent, you know what? Looking at that Real Madrid team, the last thing they need is you. Trent will go, no, the exact thing they need is me. Because you always believe if there's one man that can make a change, you look at your teammates and you go, yeah, John Barnes will make it, or Sir Kenny will make a difference. But the one thing I can guarantee is I'll make a change. It doesn't always work out like that, does it? But you go, I'll make a change. I'll show them. That's the attitude that everyone goes into every situation with. And it doesn't matter how big the challenge is. And this is a big challenge for Trent. But it also, in a way, feel that Trent has been amongst the best right backs in the world for a while. So he's qualified to play for Real Madrid in terms of his talent or whatever. So I think Trent will go, oh, really? You don't think they need me? Let me show you.
Yeah, exactly. We spoke about this exact topic last time on the show about how there's a difference between arrogance and self-confidence. And clearly, Trent Alexander-Arnold has that last one in abundance. And maybe he has a bit of that former one as well. And we shall see how that works out. The bottom line is, as you said right at the top of the show, it puts the Reds 3 points off the title. Now, there has been much debate, much discussion in the few days since we last spoke, and in the wake of that win, about the nature of how Liverpool are going to eventually win this. There was a very strange chat between a mutual buddy of ours, podcast buddy of mine, and one of your ex-chums, Jason McAteer, about how he was on beIN Sport with, I don't know if you know Richard Keys, and obviously
I know Richard, yeah.
And
but for the people who don't know, Richard started his broadcasting career on Merseyside.
Yes.
So he goes back a long way. I mean, I know him as well as you can know radio people and TV people and journalists. So yeah.
And whatever it is about young Keysy over the last few years, he seems to have developed a little bit of a antipathy, is maybe too strong a word, but a little bit of he's got the hump, it seems, when he talks about Liverpool a lot. Like, I think that might be, and maybe the Merseyside thing is the link here, I think he might be an Everton fan. I could be wrong about that, but whatever it is, anyway.
He's a Coventry fan.
He's a Coventry fan. Okay, right. Well, whatever the angle is, he was very, very much on the bandwagon that we've seen multiple times across different fan media and also in some of the more neutral mainstream media things about, well, the standard hasn't been great. There's been no real challenge to Liverpool, was Richard Key's point. And it was very much being backed up by Andy Gray. And what Jason McAteer was trying to point out to the two lads was, well, look, you can only beat what's in front of you. And the point about it not being what Key's comment continually was, it's not been a vintage season. And I see this not just from him. I see this from across the board. And it depends what club you're with, but every club that is in Liverpool are finding ways to somehow denigrate this achievement. But if we look at it, Jan, on its face, it's a man coming in his first year with a team that finished off the pace last year, and many people might have thought a squad that was sort of at its elastic limit. And he's gone and won the title, which is the milestone of consistency. I mean, how can you run that down? Let me just finish this off by saying, and by the way, in the comments the last day, Jan, we had someone referring to the fact that I do a bit of talking on this show. And I think you'll agree with me that this works best as a dialogue as opposed to just 2-second questions to you where you just rant off. That has been the success of the show, I would have thought, that we actually are having a conversation. Fair to say?
Yeah, no, absolutely, Trev. And, it's not as if you haven't earned your stripe as a Liverpool fan and, you watch all the games and you got a good eye for the game. Yes, no, absolutely. It works well. In terms of Liverpool's achievement, we briefly spoke about it last week. We live in a world now that unless you win every game, you can't be that good. So there'll be people going, Liverpool lost to Plymouth. How good are they? Well, yeah, get over yourself. But I just can't see that how Manchester City performed or Manchester United or Spurs performed. What's that got to do with Liverpool? It has absolutely nothing to do with Liverpool. I think what is actually happening is that more power to the managers. I think there's more belief in managers now than there's been for years. So they're kind of running with the managers' ideas. Hence the reason that whether it's Bournemouth or Brighton, Fulham, all those teams are Brentford are massively improving because they're running with the manager's idea, and the manager are actually very good at their jobs. Whereas maybe for years there was always hurdles and obstructions put in your way as a manager, and now they go, no, the most important guy at our club is the manager. So I think they've got some really good managers who's improving the product as a whole. Yes, City haven't been City, but that's not Liverpool's problem, is it? Liverpool have still only lost 2 games, and the one thing that gets me a little bit is that people are saying Liverpool are stumbling over the line. Liverpool have won 6 of the last 7 games. It's not really stumbling, is it? Yes, we can discuss individual performances and go, it hasn't been as outstanding as we would have liked. But that's a vanity thing, isn't it? It's a vanity thing in that the better you play, and then you might get a place at the big table where people go, this is amongst the best teams who's ever won the Premier League, isn't it? But for this group of players, for the fans on Sunday, there's only one thing that will matter, isn't it? And that is the Liverpool win the title. My only advice to Liverpool fans is don't get involved in it. Just go. Like the banner said, I think, at Leicester on Sunday, and it's not 19 forever. I think there was a banner in the cup and at the end way, and I said it's not 19 forever. It isn't. It's almost 20. So
it's almost 20. Yeah, like the thing about it is, I suppose, jobs like yours and mine, we have to get into the weeds on the performance levels, and I think it is fair to say that the performance levels haven't been what we'd like them to be. And you're right, it does come down to a vanity thing, and I'll openly admit that. I want us to keep stumbling across the line in the way that we're doing, because that will mean we should break the 90-point thing. We could still secure 94 points. These are like nerdy little things that matter to people, some people. They don't matter to other people. They matter to me because I want Liverpool to be acknowledged as one of the great teams. And I'm sorry, you can talk all you like about lack of competition, but you get the points on the board, end of discussion. But, and there is a little bit of a but here, it hasn't been comfortable these last few games. It's been a bit of a struggle. It feels a little bit like we're looking at lads who are underperforming. I'm thinking of guys of ridiculous talent like Dom Szoboszlai, I'm thinking of the diminishing returns from Gravenberch. I'm thinking of our outstanding centre-half pairing who have had sketchy games individually and as a pair once. That type of thing is not comfortable for us to watch. And we saw, didn't we, the real importance of having the best goalkeeper in the world return, because he probably made all the difference on a couple of occasions very recently. What do you make of the way that this sort of, there has been a tailing off really in terms of the performance at times? We still racking up the shots, Jan. We could have, in that Leicester game, it could have been 4-5 on a different day. You know, it's hard to know what to make of this. Are we over-egging the disappointing level of the performance, perhaps?
It comes down to, yet again, in the world that we live in, everything is analysed, isn't it? You know what I mean? So you get it get analysed on TV, and then within 24 hours, you got 15, 20 people on YouTube who's analysed the whole thing. You got a written journalist who's analysed the whole thing. So it will in many ways be quite easy to see a drop off from early season when you're at it, when every point mattered. Yeah, you know, when you go out to the games angry because we need every single point. I was fortunate enough to win the league 3 times when I was at Liverpool. 86 was on the last day. 1990 was on the second last day. But in 1988, we won it with a little bit to spare. But if you look at our results after we'd won it, it became a bit, you know, 1-1, drew 1, lost 1. And I look at this group of players and I can just picture them in the dressing room, Trevor, still doing everything they normally do in terms of preparation, but defeated up, aren't they? And the backroom staff, this is when the manager will say to the backroom staff, you got a bigger job today than normally because we've got to get these boys fired up, yeah. The feet up on it, and they're going, come on, and you're going, it'll be all right. That's a human nature, Trevor. It's human nature because it's done, isn't it? You know, it can be very difficult when it's not a lot, is it? And you don't do it intentionally. Absolutely, you don't do it intentionally because, as you said, I've done everything like I normally do. Yeah, but you just got 2% off, which is enough, innit? At this level of competition, you take 2% of your performance, it becomes a game. Even when you play Leicester or we played West Ham the week before, you take a couple of percent of your performance, it becomes a game. And then we come back to that old saying Ronald Moran always used to say, start quick and you can always go quicker. Start slow and you're in trouble. You know, it's a fair point, isn't it? And we've experienced that in the last few games, haven't we? We're not really getting there, are we? You know, we have moments because we're better than most of the teams that we play against. But we don't really get there as in a 90-minute performance, mainly because we don't have to. And I know fans get frustrated. You go, why can't they? I can't explain it. I've been there myself. I don't know.
I saw an interview with Ian Rush, and he was talking. It was around about 2020 when Liverpool were about to win the title, and he was looking back on that 1990 season you mentioned, and he was saying that, you know, possibly player for player, the 2020 squad might have been even better. And, you know, he was saying the thing that squad had, that team had, and I think it makes a lot of sense because there was a lot of guys who'd been around for a long time together. He was talking about, you know, being in the trenches together, giving that extra bit of a dig out for your pal, getting things over the line. And like you said, it was within a couple of games, wasn't it, before the title was decided. This team here now are in a situation where potentially they could be looking at having it done next weekend. That's remarkable. That is remarkable. It's a remarkable achievement, up and down and sideways. It doesn't matter what way you level it. And I wonder what's behind this idea of claiming things about the levels. Because if we just take ourselves a little bit sideways for a sec, we just talk about maybe, because I'd like to get your take on this, just for a little bit of conversation about somebody other than the Reds for a sec. If we look at the table, Jan, it's a really, really interesting setup at the minute for the Champions League places. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen it as fascinating. Forest won last night to go level on games played with everybody else in the setup now, so it's nice and easy to talk about. And Forest are on 60 points in third spot. And Newcastle are a point behind them on 59. and City are a point behind them on 58. And then you've got Chelsea and Villa a point further behind on 57. So there's 3 points there between 7th and 3rd. And it really does feel to me like it's kind of up for grabs there. I can't really predict how that's going to go. You could make different arguments about involvement in different competitions and all the rest of it. You could talk about teams having to rally. And I mean, we spoke about how it's distinctly possible, just given the way things have gone from this season, that Man City could be out of even a top 5. So when you look at that, do you have a gut feeling about who's going to make up the other 3? Because, like I say, it's nailed on. We assume that Arsenal are going to keep plugging away. We saw a very impressive 4-0 win when, they didn't have to do that. The title challenge is kind of out the window. But so we assume they're going to hang on in there and stay where they are. When you look at Forest, Newcastle, City, Chelsea, what are the 3 for you that's going to make it there? And Villa, sorry, which 3 out of those is going to make it for you, or do you think it's absolute lap of the gods?
I think it's a little bit lap of the gods, actually, Trevor, because I don't have any strong feelings about any of them. Prior to last night and Forest going to London and beating Spurs, I thought their season might have been derailed. Over the last couple of performances, they looked a bit, against Everton at home. I'm thinking they're going to find it difficult to score, and then Everton nick one late on, then they lose a game, and I'm thinking Forest have got some tricky games coming up. Then you got Newcastle, who looked very impressive until they took themselves a good hiding down at Villa Park, where they were simply overrun. Chelsea got a much-needed win away from home at Craven Cottage against Fulham, but they have struggled. They're struggling with form, and their star player is bang out of form, isn't he? Cole Palmer is not delivering at the moment. Manchester City probably got the easiest programme of all of them, but they're also the ones that I still very much doubt Manchester City. Even last week they won 2-0 at Goodison Park, isn't it? But I'm not sure that's a fair reflection of the game. Yet again, they didn't play particularly well. And then you got Villa, who are flying, absolutely flying. Although Villa equally have had some big problems on the road. They've been very, very strong at home at Villa Park, but away from home, they've been a bit tricky. And as we do this show on the Tuesday, they play tonight, don't they? Man City play Villa tonight. So what a monster of a game this is. So I'm going to go with Man City, Newcastle, and I think Forest might just do it.
They're the 3 I went with as well. And I have very little extra rationale than you. I think there's something a little bit hinky going on at Chelsea. It feels like it's a little bit unsettled. And I think just Villa might fall away. So that would be it. I'm really impressed with Forest and their staying power. Really impressed, I have to say. I didn't see that coming back in, the early months of the season when they were hanging in there. With a view to that end of season feel as well, there's also the relegation places which have been decided. And this again is sort of going to, it's already having a knock-on effect, Jan, when there's transfer talk going on. Because now you're looking at Ipswich and Leicester and Southampton, and clubs are going to be thinking, well, let's pick over the carcass of that club and see what we can take away from them before they make the drop. With that sort of cynical head on you, is there anyone jumping out at you from any of those clubs who would be a great recruit for the Reds?
I mean, down at Ipswich, everybody's talking about the same player, aren't they?
Yeah.
Liam Delap, who, by all accounts, and this is probably the only way they could get him to come to Ipswich, is that he's got a clause in his contract if they stay in the Premier League, and he's got a clause in his contract should they get relegated. So now they're going down. We believe that the fee is 30 million, which, based on what he's done so far, appears to be cheap. But 18 months ago, 2 years ago, we were talking 50, 80, 100 million for Ferguson down at Brighton, who now can't get a game on loan at West Ham. So it can be a little bit tricky with these young players. Be very, very careful. So when I look at them, the 3 clubs, Southampton, they got the boy Tyler Diplin. Is he, Trevor, though? Is he top level?
Have you heard the number being thrown around for Tyler?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't.
Like, I mean, I'm not sure if this is 100% official, but you know, I do a lot of transfer stuff, and we've got Dave Davis who's always digging, and the stories that were going around and were being fed to journalists was that they were looking for around approaching nearly 100 million. I mean, that's unjustifiable, isn't it?
Jack Grealish money.
Jack,
I mean, yeah, but they paid on. But so what you're buying there, Trev, is, and you're paying over the odds for potential. To be fair, I'm looking at that boy, and I would want that boy to be somewhere in between. So I'd want him to leave Southampton to go to West Ham or somebody else before I would be interested.
Yes,
because I'm just not convinced. I see the talent. I've only seen Southampton a couple of times live this season, but I see the talent. You know, he's got very good talent in it, but I'm not sure. So Ipswich, the only one that is still up. Tyler Dibner. And I actually think that Leicester's best is probably the goalkeeper, Matt Hermansen. I think he's a really good goalkeeper. He's a real modern day goalkeeper. Reads the game well, quick off the line, really good feet. His only problem is lack of presence. You know, it's like, is he big enough? You know, I think somebody might take a. So I don't think any of these clubs who all recruited a fair bit in the summer. I also think all of them recruited with this as a potential of them getting relegated, being ready to go again. So I look at that Ipswich squad and I think they bought a lot of the best players in the championship. They're now going back down with them, and I think they'll come straight back up. No, I wouldn't be. It's strange in it, Trevor. When you look, the 10 biggest net spenders in European football last year. 5 of those clubs are English, and 4 of those big spending clubs are in the bottom 7. You know, Spurs, West Ham, Man United, and Ipswich. Them 4 clubs are all in the top 10 in Europe net spenders. And the 5th one, which they were the biggest net spenders in Europe last year, which is Brighton, who a little bit by their own standards is not having a great season. You know, they were shouting a bit for the manager on Saturday at Brentford, and they're not quite 100% in. So, you know, this thing about transfer windows, we got to spend, we got to, you know, I don't know. Is that the way forward? Liverpool didn't spend, you know.
Yeah.
Other clubs didn't spend a lot either because of restrictions. I don't know. You know, but it is though, isn't it? When you think of 4 of the biggest 10 net spenders in Europe and the bottom 7 in the Premier League. West Ham, Spurs, Man United, and Ipswich. That is madness, isn't it?
It is madness, and you can see how people lean into that and talk about how well run Liverpool is by comparison, and you know, stuff like that makes certain fans just really happy and proud, and fair play. I can take a little bit of pride in the fact that the club is well run compared to others. But it doesn't keep me warm at night, you know. That's where I go a bit crazy, like everybody else, when there's the potential of some signings. You mentioned Manchester United there, and it would be remiss of us not to have a quick comment on them and a take from you on what's going on there, because it has been a remarkable season behind the scenes there, in terms of the stuff that's been coming out of the new ownership group. Some PR stories, Jan, you could not make up worse ones. You honestly, some of the stuff that came out, it's bad when Gary Neville's going at you and trying to get a gotcha on you in an interview. It's remarkable stuff. But that would all be just one thing if it wasn't for what's happening on the pitch as well. And, you know, I wonder just what your take on it is, because Amorim, I think, was very, very, very close to Liverpool, and I think was very much considered. It seemed to be that the story was they just couldn't make it work at the time. So he is a highly rated coach, and it was I think, I could be wrong, but it felt like a great get for them at the time, and it just doesn't seem to have worked out. Do you put that down to him being incapable of working with a subpar squad, or him being incapable of getting his message across, or what is it you're seeing there? And there's still the potential for some glory for Man United in this season. They do have a potential European trophy on the horizon, 2 semis against Athletic. It's interesting to see what might happen there. What's your take on them and where they've, the way this season has petered out for them?
I don't really know what to make of it, Trevor. I totally agree that Ruben Amorim has definitely got something as a coach. You know, the job that he did at Braga before he went to Sporting Lisbon, and for Sporting Lisbon, pay up to 10 million euros for a coach from Braga. That means that they felt he was a real deal. And then, of course, he came into Sporting Lisbon and turned things completely around. A lot of people, and again, this is lazy, Trevor, but a lot of people are going, you know, he's playing his 3-4-2-1 system. He's playing that with a group of players who can't play that system. Yeah, okay, they can't play the system. But fuck me, surely they can play football. You know, yeah. It's like, yeah, okay, but you can play football, can't you? So you can still do something. The system might not be ideal suited to you, but you can still play football. You can control the ball. You can pass the ball. You can make it tackle. You clean through. You can score a goal on it. That has nothing to do with the system. So I don't know whether it's just to do with players. But what I do know, Trevor, is that the ownership group, who they don't own the club, do they? The people who's been left with the baby, which is the Ineos group, they've been left with the sporting side of Manchester United to make that work. And I'm led to believe that they've kind of gone, well, okay, this is the summer. This is the summer where we clean up. You know, we're prepared to take big hits. We move players on. We've got to start all over again. To be able to do that, Trevor, and it's always easy to make plans, isn't it? The one thing they need right now, they need time, yeah? How do you buy yourself time? With results. And they're not getting any results. That's their biggest problem, isn't it? So it's all very good saying, we've got a clear plan, wait for the summer, all these players will go, we'll bring young players in, you know, hopefully, as far as they're concerned, with the right profile, isn't it? But in the meantime, they need results. And you've hit the nail on the head, isn't it? Europa League, Athletic Bilbao, and guess where the final is? The final's in Bilbao. What do you think Bilbao feels about that? Oh, this is ours. We ain't missing out on a home final. So it's going to be tricky because they're just not playing well, Trevor. It's already good talking about the game on Sunday against Wolves and they rested a few players and whatever. Yeah, but it hides nothing. You know, it hides nothing. That, I mean, the trouble they were in against Lyon, I couldn't believe he went through. You know, he playing against 10 men and got himself into trouble, 4-2 down, and then you get these kind of things in football you can't explain because that's what it was. I can't explain what happened at Old Trafford in those last few minutes when he managed to get himself 3 goals, but he got himself through. Now in the semi-final. I don't know what to make of it. I really don't. It really is shocking. I think before the start of the season, I had Manchester down 7 or 8. We briefly talked about where do you think, and I went, they're going to finish 7 or 8. And even then, people are going, what? I said, yeah, they won't have a great season, but they'll finish 7 or 8. They haven't had a great season, but they're now going to finish. They can only really, the highest they can finish is 13. You know, it's Trevor. What kind of territory are we in here now? It's all very good going back to the 70s when they got relegated, but it was almost like a 11 playing field, wasn't it? You know, Man United might have been paying £100 a week, but the other teams were paying £75 a week. You know, now it's different. Manchester United are paying £300 a week, and Brentford are paying £40 a week. You know what I mean? So it's not 11 playing field in terms of that anymore. But they're the clubs that they're competing with. You know, clubs that they're paying 3-4 times as much in wages than those clubs, isn't it? It's crazy.
It really is. The numbers are staggering, and look, they have that opportunity. As you rightly say, Bilbao, I don't think I'd be too excited about that for them if I was a Man United fan. They've got Bilbao have one of the most sought after talents in Europe as well, in Nico Williams, and I just it's going to be very, very interesting to see because the season just collapses if that doesn't go their way and the other team has such motivation. To spin it just back to the Reds before we go to look at the next challenge ahead of us, there's a lot of talk at the moment about, you know, potential signings and all the rest of it, and that's because we have this little bonus transfer window, which is going to open up for a little while, then it closes, and there's the other one. Okay, and we know that that's because of other factors, but it's making the whole thing seem a bit more alive than it usually does at this time of the year. And stories are starting to emerge. I remember saying to you this day last week, or whenever it was we did the show, that I wouldn't be surprised, Jan, if things happen the way we hope they happen at the weekend, and we get the victory we need to win the league. I wouldn't be surprised if stories start to break down wholesale around the Reds. I think everybody's fully expecting Darwin Núñez to be on his bike. I had no idea how close that was until I heard the details of it lately. Like, it was ridiculously close that he was nearly out the door. We were ridiculously close to Victor Osimhen, turns out. Luis Diaz strikes me as a man who'd be quite happy to get on his bike as well and pedal away. One of those left backs, if not both, is going to want to be on their bike because of lack of opportunity, because there will be a signing there, you imagine. It's going to be very, very interesting time. I think you're looking at a situation where there's going to be a lot of movement at Liverpool. What is the latest you've been hearing? Because there's been contradictory stuff coming out of the club about big summer, small summer, big summer, small summer. And we know how this works. The minute the signings were made, it was like, well, all the money's now gone to the lads, so forget your transfer budget. That seems a little bit daft. I think we're back to the usual thing, Jan. Sales equals purchases. Would that be fair?
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And I also think that the club understands that this is the summer now where we build that new super team. You know, now we plan for the next 5 or 6 years, isn't it? So we put bricks into place. And how do you do that? Well, you do that by signing players for the starting 11. You know, it's a massive big thing in terms of Liverpool. The money has to be on the pitch. You know, the big money that you buy has to be on the pitch. We can't have that seated next to the manager on the bench or even in the stands. The big money has to be on the pitch. So I think this is a summer where we buy for the starting 11, whether that's 1, 2, or 3, and then we buy some real potential. So I can't have any other way than this is a big summer, regardless of what happens. But I agree with you, is that some players would move on, and with that money, and Darwin is obviously a big key to that, because they're hoping to get significant money back in for him, which will open the door to do whatever we do. I mean, somebody said the other day, they feel that if we get money from Saudi Arabia for Darwin Núñez, that would enable us to bid for Alexander Isak. And the big thing in terms of Alexander Isak is the fact that we might be in a position where we can give him a bigger fee up front, which will be quite attractive to Newcastle, because Newcastle have their own PSR challenges. You know, so it's an interesting one. I'm not here suggesting I'm what about to sign Isak. I do think if there's a big departure, that might open the door. And I don't know whether winning the Carabao Cup and qualifying for the Champions League, with, let's be honest, very little chance of winning it. I'm talking about Newcastle. Whether that's enough for Alexander Isak. If he sees himself, like I do, as one of the top 3, certainly top 5 central strikers in Europe, he must see himself like that. So he must also think, at my age, mid-20s, now's the time, isn't it? And can I get, listen, they've had a couple of great weeks after that Carabao Cup, isn't it? But is that enough? When you look at the scenes at Anfield, and there'll be somebody in Munich on the last day of May picking up the Champions League or whatever, you know, Trevor, I remember I was in Denmark in 1984 when Liverpool played Roma in the European Cup final. And we played Roma in a pre-season game in 83, so leading up to that season, 83, 84, and we played Roma and we lost 3-1 in a pre-season game. And I was talking to my friends when we come home, and there's the Champions League, the final for it's the old, whatever it was called. I forget now what it's called. And the lads are going, how do you think the game will go, Liverpool against Roma? I said, I think Roma will win. I played against them. You know, this is us coming back. I played against them in they were absolutely amazing. You know, I mean, what a good team they are. In the end, Liverpool winning it. And I remember sitting there thinking, Can you imagine what that would be like? I mean, I'm a professional footballer by then. I'm a professional footballer by then, and I've done a bit. Been to. We were just about to go to the European Championships and all that, isn't it? But you're thinking, can you imagine that one? I mean, this is another level, isn't it? I'd won a double in Holland and whatever, and I was still an Ajax player. I wasn't even on my way to Liverpool at that time. I mean, Alexander Isak will be exactly the same. He'd be looking and going, we had some great fun up here, you know what I mean? But that's just another level. And can I get that where I am? And that's the brutality of elite sport, isn't it, Trevor? You know, it's like you earn the right to play at that level, isn't it? What more do you want me to do? You know, consistently over the last 18 months, I'll prove it, isn't it? So I don't know whether Champions League and the Carabao Cup will be enough to keep him there. I mean, buy yourself a striker that's going to score your goals, Trevor. Harry Kane, Erling Haaland, and this boy, you know, two of them you can't get. Well, you wouldn't want Harry Kane at his age anyway, and with the fee, Haaland you can't get. It's Alexander Isak. It's a no-brainer. But we've probably got to find the money somewhere.
That's going to be such an interesting thing. I think you're in agreement that that's one of the things that this team needs to address. League champions elect and all as they are, you got to have a number 9 that's scoring goals, surely. And how many of them are there?
I don't know. I don't know what type of number 9 we need, Trevor.
All right.
But we need a number 9 that works. So we basically had 3 people who played number 9 this season, haven't we? Shota, Nunes, and Diaz. And they've all worked for spells. But none of them have given you the impression of, wow, we cracked it. This is so. What number 9 do we need? I don't know. But I do know that if you buy Alexander Isak, then he would be good enough to be any number 9 you want. So if you want a goal scorer, Isak will take care of that. If you want somebody who can create as well, Isak will take care of that. If you want somebody to be the linked-up player, a bit like Bobby, Isak can do that, isn't it? And I think that's a great thing with him. Whereas maybe Harry Kane is a bit more. Haaland certainly, he's an out goal scorer, isn't he? So he doesn't bring as much. He doesn't bring as much to the table as Alexander Isak. So I don't quite know. If we don't buy Alexander Isak, we will sign another striker, and then you will go, this is what he does, yeah. And then you'll go, well, okay, this is what we're after. But I just think if you buy Alexander Isak, you swipe the board, he does it all.
Let's just do devil's advocate for a second. Say maybe the amount of money that guy is going to cost maybe Newcastle are pricing him out of a deal. I'm looking at some other alternatives. I'm thinking maybe Gyökeres. I'm thinking maybe Victor Osimhen, we mentioned. And I'm thinking maybe Julian Alvarez. And of the 3 of those, to me, Alvarez is the more complete footballer, which means he might be more in the lines of what you're thinking there, someone who can do it all and also get goals. But I don't know if you agree with that. I'd be interested in your take on if Santa Claus came along and said you can have one of these 3 guys, which one would it be for you?
So I only heard 2 of them. I didn't hear the name of the third one.
So Osimhen, Alvarez, and Gyökeres.
Oh, okay, yeah. So Gyökeres, again, I have to be honest. I don't know whether he's technically good enough for the Premier League in tight areas, getting his shots away. Osimhen, I think the biggest fear there for Liverpool is the wages. That boy's going to cost you $300,000 a week walking into the building, and I think Liverpool want to avoid that at all costs. And if the third one is, I heard right, is Julian Alvarez, I would drive to Madrid and pick him up. He's another terrific footballer. He would then be a different number 9 because he isn't really that sort of thread in behind, but he's a terrific footballer. He's a great shot from distance, isn't he? So he's another really, really good player, isn't he? I just think with Victor Osimhen is, I don't know, is he 26? That would be some financial layout for Liverpool and whether we want to get involved with that. But of them 3, I would say Alvarez all day long. I found it. I always get disappointed, Trevor, even if it's competitors who lose players. I found it amazing that Rafinha was allowed to leave Leeds, and by leaving Leeds, he left the Premier League. And again, the same with Alvarez when he left. And I know he was City left in it, but still, I'm disappointed that you lose a talent like that from the Premier League. So yeah, Alvarez is a super footballer. I mean, he looks a bit like McAllister, doesn't he? He looks a really good, tough lad who wants to play football, isn't he? Durability. I mean, the greatest gift a footballer can have is availability, isn't it? And again, that boy always seems to be available.
There was a wild rumor going around because of things that Kevin De Bruyne said that, maybe could we do a year with Kevin De Bruyne? And for me, that's beyond fanciful because I can't see them for exactly the same reason you said. I can't see us, Liverpool's current setup, paying the wages that Kevin De Bruyne would demand and need for a year. But it brings me to a different question. Not do you think we should go for Kevin De Bruyne, but rather, what do you think is going to be the case with him? You've watched a lot of football and you've watched him over the years, as we all have, and it's been a treat to watch that guy. But a lot of people are of the opinion that, it sort of had pretty much gone to the wall for him this season, that he might have hit that point where you just go, the magic is just kind of gone now. Have you any opinion around that?
No, not really. No other than I totally agree with you. I probably saw it in his performance with Belgium before I saw it at Manchester City. But that's probably because I think Belgium have had their golden era and it was hard work for him. And City probably had a better team that could cover better for Kevin De Bruyne. Again, one of these things, it happens to every footballer, Trevor. You can happen at 30, 32, 35. Your legs tend to go. Kevin De Bruyne's problem is that because of the type of player he is, he plays in small areas, and to do that, yes, you need to have a range of passing, but you also need to have that ability to get away from situations, and he doesn't have that anymore. Where does Kevin De Bruyne go? If Kevin De Bruyne stays competitive, and by that I mean we're probably looking at 3 leagues, the Spanish, the Italian, and the Premier League. He could potentially go to PSG, but I couldn't see that with Luis Enrique being the manager. If he stays competitive, he goes to a club with an owner that signs Kevin De Bruyne for vanity. Look what I've given you. Yeah? Look at me. What do you want, Kevin De Bruyne? A bit like Jack Walker, the late Jack Walker back in the day at Blackburn. What do you want? Here's Kevin De Bruyne for you. So that looks like that to me. So I'm hearing more and more rumors about North America, going over to America to play. There's no doubt that there's plenty of levels where Kevin De Bruyne can still rip it up. But a lot of those countries, he has no interest in playing. I couldn't see him going to Holland. I couldn't see him going to Belgium. I couldn't see him wanting to go to Germany because of the energy that's in the German game. Energy, but a little bit of lack of quality, isn't it? So I could see him going to America. Steven Gerrard's been pretty open about what a great experience it was for him in terms of going over there and still being able to play at a reasonable level, and in terms of the focus and the spotlight on you in a whole different way, isn't it? So that's probably more like it. But Trevor, what a player. What a player. And there's nothing more beautiful, Trevor, than passing the ball into space and everybody goes, who's he passing to? And there comes somebody, doesn't it? You know what I mean? It just runs into that spot, doesn't he? Wow, that's football, Trevor.
Would he be one of the best you've seen in recent years?
Yeah, no, he is. Yeah, absolutely. I love that type of play. Our own Xabi Alonso, and I used to enjoy watching Paul Scholes. And here's a name that didn't unfortunately play, although he's still playing. Santi Cazorla. Do you remember when he played for Arsenal?
Of course, yeah.
He had a lot of problems, a lot of injuries, but when he played, pulling strings, little balls, and whatever. I'm a big fan of that type of player. There isn't, for my money, enough of those players in the game. So yeah, I'm a massive fan of Kevin De Bruyne. Agreed.
And also, I think the Saudi thing, I think his head was very much turned by an offer before that fell through. So watch this space. We have Spurs ahead of us, just to move into our last couple of minutes. And Spurs represent the next opportunity for Liverpool to get 3 points, which means the next opportunity for Liverpool to win the league. We play them on Sunday at 4:30, and they play Bodo Glimt in their semi-final of the Europa League on Thursday, and it's probably a little bit fanciful to think that he's going to do a whole lot of squad shake-ups on the back of that. But then they have West Ham on the Sunday, and then Bodo Glimt again. So it's not an easy run for Tottenham at all. I wonder, can he afford to take his eye off the league? He can't really, can he? I mean, they're not exactly precarious, but it's not an impressive place where Tottenham are. I wouldn't be reading too much talk about them playing the kids at the weekend, and that therefore being a handy road for us. What do you think of Spurs as a challenge for us to get over to win this league? And before we get a prediction from you at the end.
So for the game against Forest, he made 5 changes from the last Europa League game against Frankfurt. I think he'll make changes again on Sunday, but his biggest problem is that he's had a lot of injuries all season. Now the injured players are coming back, but they need to come back and find some form. It's all very good having them back, but they need to find form. So I can actually see him, Trevor, going strong for an hour.
Yeah.
The players need to play, And also, as a manager, I can't for my life see how he survives at Tottenham. Even if they win the Europa League, I just can't see how he survives. But as a manager, going to Anfield is still something unique, isn't it? So I think he'd want to go there. And it's been a long time since we've seen that Hans Postecoglou football that we saw when he just joined Spurs. And I still think he thinks it's in there somewhere. So it wouldn't surprise me if he goes, you know what, lads? Do you think we can give it a real go here, at least for an hour, get ourselves ready for Bodo Glimt? Because the Bodo Glimt one is a nightmare, isn't it? To play a Norwegian team in the semi-final, second leg in Norway on the AstroTurf pitch, it's a nightmare of a scenario, isn't it? So Spurs have got plenty of players who are going to hurt you, Trevor. Brennan Johnson on the right, Odin Bear, I thought played quite well on Monday night. Matis Tell, it hasn't really happened for him, but they got Solanke, Richarlison, who's always got a little bit of a bee in the bonnet with Liverpool. So they've got some good players. James Maddison, Kulusevski. Kulusevski is another one he needs to find his form again, isn't it? So you've got to be careful, Trevor. If you're at it, if you're at your absolute best, razor sharp on the first minute, you win 4 or 5-0. You dismantle them. You disencourage them, yeah. But if you offer a little bit and you allow them in the game and they can play at their tempo, I think it's going to be a tricky game if we allow that.
So it's going to be that last one. Let's be honest.
I think so.
There's very little evidence to the contrary. So let's finish as we usually do, and with your take on how you think that one goes.
Yeah, I think we're going to win because I think that the fans, we don't need the fans to be desperate, But I think the fans are desperate in that they want to win it on Sunday, don't they? Because otherwise we take 3,000 to Stamford Bridge and probably win it there, and nobody wants that. So I think that the desperation in that will be, we need to win this, isn't it? So I actually think it could be quite a bit of a game. So I'm going to go Liverpool 3, Spurs 2.
I mean, everyone would take that. And it would be fantastic if we were talking to each other next time out as champions so early in the season. Is there a slight possibility it could be done before Liverpool even take to the field?
No, not what I'm hearing, Trevor. Palace last week against Bournemouth played with 10 men. He wanted to make more changes, I believe, but he didn't want to get a hammer in. But this game Wednesday at the Emirates is too close to the semi-final. So I think they'll go really weak. And I also think that it just looks a little bit like a Portman Road for Arsenal, that they've found a little bit of energy, haven't they? The results against Real Madrid have given them a little bit of a freedom, a little bit of a lift in it. So I think it'll be pretty straightforward for Arsenal.
Yeah. Well, as the man said, we're still expecting the Reds to do the business. And for the next time that we speak to you, it should be a very special occasion where we're talking as champions. Let's hope that's the case, at least. Thanks to Jan for another fantastic show. Stretching them, as always, to the limits there with the questions. Massively appreciated. I know you guys who listen and watch appreciate it as well. So, as ever, thanks, my friend. And we will talk to you very soon. Thanks, buddy.
No problem, Trevor.